Hello and welcome to this solo episode of the Game Changer podcast. My name is Michelle Dutro, and here we are again talking about, I don't know, that ticker tape that says, how many friends have you lost this week? I don't mean in a morbid kind of way. I mean that we have just decided you can no longer be part of my friend group or my friend circle because our opinions are too different. So really what I'd like us to chat about today is the power of the spoken word. And I know it's going to be very easy in this chat to think that I am only talking about the other guy, right? Oh boy, doesn't Sally or Bill or Susan need to get this message? But as difficult as it is, I really want you to sit with this message. And yes, would it be great for you to share this? And instead of saying, hey, Bob, you need to take a listen to this, maybe it's, hey, Bob, I think that it would be great if we both considered being impeccable with our word as a way of life that maybe would be beneficial, not just for our relationship, but for every relationship and quite frankly, humanity at large. So let's break this down a little bit. When I say be impeccable with your word, many people may recognize that as one of the 4 agreements. There is another reference point from the Bhagavad Gita. Quite frankly, it's every religion, but I'm going to stop on that one. And the Bhagavad Gita tells us 4 very specific things that we need to be mindful of with our language. So those things are, wouldn't you know, I just did write it down right here. Here we go. That what we say is true. That really is quite difficult. I'm going to come back to that in today's day and age anyway. Being kind, being helpful, and being uplifting. And the thought behind the Bhagavad Gita on these rules of speaking and writing and our means of communication is that the reality is every single thing that needs to be conveyed can go through this filter. If you feel that you can't check these boxes or you can't check at least 3 of the 4 of them, then I would say check in on the state that you're in. Are you coming from a place of anger, frustration, hostility, defensiveness, whatever it is, because that's largely the reason why, or just quite frankly, stress in general, which is the way we operate nowadays. Because if those things can be eliminated, it's a lot easier to try to convey our point or our message or our thoughts with those things in mind. So let's break those down a little bit here. Is it true? Here's what I'm going to tell you about is it true. I don't know at this point in time of anything that is actually true in the world we live in. I know there's a lot of things that people want us to believe them to be true. I know there's a lot of agendas out there that benefit if we believe X, Y, Z is true. But what does it take for you to personally know for a fact, firsthand, not because it came from social media or the news or whatever else it is, you know, Sally at the grocery store while you were standing in line. What does it take for you personally to know that this statement, this belief is actually the truth? Because I'm telling you, I bet very little actually applies to that. When you think about all the things that we believe to be true and all the things we vehemently defend, stop and ask yourself, why do I believe in that thing? And further, do I believe in that thing and to the degree that I'm going to alienate friends or family? And then what if new information or data comes along that changes that fact, that makes that fact no longer accurate or makes that fact that it was never accurate, right? But we were sold a bill of goods. Now what? Now I've alienated all kinds of friends and family, and this is no longer true. I'm going to give you a case in point. When I was in the fire department, let's go back to the year 2000, 2001, somewhere in that time frame. In the fire department, we had to walk door to door and hand out baby aspirin if you were over a certain age. I don't know, 50, 60 maybe, elderly-ish. I'm in that age group, so I really shouldn't be saying elderly. But any which way, we handed out baby aspirin door to door to the entire King County. This was done. King County, I will tell you, has the highest record. I don't know if they still do, but back then they certainly did. The highest record for heart attack saves in the nation. So King County takes very seriously and great pride in heart health and CPR saves. I mean, it's number 1 in the entire nation for heart attack saves. So we led this this baby aspirin campaign, thinking that this would be very beneficial in preventing or lowering the likeliness of heart attack in elderly folks. So again, we're going back 25 years for this. And this became the gold standard, that it was just older folks knew you need to take a baby aspirin for your health. Well, I don't know if you realize this, but in 2019, they came back and said, yeah, I think that there actually may be more risk than benefit in taking a baby aspirin. In 2022, they came out and said, stop. You got to, if you're an elderly person, do not take baby aspirin anymore. And the largest reason being susceptibility to bleeding out. If you got in a car crash, if something happened and your loss of blood was going to be your cause of death, or having a brain hemorrhage, like a stroke, the more quickly you bleed out from a stroke, the more likely you're going to die before they could ever get you to a hospital. So because no one knows if you're taking baby aspirin and then you're also on Coumadin, a blood thinner, and then maybe you're also taking vitamin E or other supplements that are blood thinning by nature. So all of these in combination, it's not going to take much for you to bleed to death. So this was completely stopped. Now, are there people still taking baby aspirin? I guarantee you there's people listening to this podcast right now who never heard that you're supposed to stop that. Google it, check it out, talk to your doctor. I'm not lying. Did it make that information in 2000 a lie or untrue? No, it was a study. It was believed to be true at the time. 25 years later, have we changed our position on that? Yes, we have. So what I'm saying here is that there are instances where there are things we believe to be true today that down the road, new information can come along and make that not true. And if you had a stake in the ground so vehemently that you X'd people out of your life, that's going to be really hard to now go back and go, yeah, remember how I stopped speaking to you and never invited you over anymore and you weren't allowed over for Christmas or the holidays or anything? Well, turns out that information was wrong and hey, let's get to, you know what? It's a little hard to get past, isn't it? Harder to get past anyways, had we not gone to that extreme. So when I say about being truthful with your word, that's a real difficult and dicey one in today's day and age. I don't know what's true about anything. You could ask me about any topic under the sun. Well, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. The world we live in anymore, question all of it. The next one is be kind, right? There is no reason that we require communicating an opinion to be degrading or insulting in any way, shape, or form. It's not a requirement. That just means, again, you're coming from a place that's not grounded, that's not solid in where you're at if you feel the need to put somebody else down in order to make your opinion. Not needed. Helpful. Is this information helpful? And if it is helpful, who is it helpful to? Is it helpful to the other person? Is it helpful to you? Is it helpful to humanity? And lastly, is it uplifting? Meaning, let's go back to that thing. Is it harmful? Is what you're saying something like, I know that you're such an idiot, so there's probably no way you're going to grasp what I'm saying? Okay, that's not uplifting, and that's not helpful, and that's not kind. So 3 of the 4, you didn't make it past that. So no, you can't make that statement. So these things, if we were to imagine running through a filter before we said something as our checkbox and said, are these being met? And if they're not, maybe I need to think a little bit harder on this one, especially on the truthful one, because quite frankly, right now we all need to put that in check. The next thing is intention. What is your intention when you're responding? I will ask you this. Pick an opinion that you have on any topic. When was the last time somebody responded to a post you had, or you saw somebody else's post or response to a post or whatever, and completely changed your entire opinion and belief and way of being? Oh my gosh, look what Jack just wrote there. I'm going to change my entire belief. That was an amazing point that he just made in those 72 characters. I was completely wrong. Yeah, I'm going to bet here pretty much everything that's never happened. Never. In fact, all it did was incite you and make you more angry. But the odds that you're going to read something and it's going to just change everything you ever believed to be true about that subject, So guess what? The same goes for everyone else. There is nothing that you are going to write in a response that is going to change someone's mind. And if you're just writing that so that all of your people lop on and agree with you, why? They already agree with that point. They don't need your 2 cents to make it 3 cents. That doesn't make any sense at all. I didn't really mean any of that with the sense, but here's what I'm saying. What is your intention with responding back in some inflammatory way? You're not changing anybody's opinion. Just like any inflammatory response that you're reading, they're not changing yours. So again, at some point we have to start to be a little more responsible with our word because it has incredible power. To that end, I am going to put in show notes. I did a whole history check on all religions, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, American Indian, ancient wisdom, every single Islam, every religion has writings and quotes cited that I'm going to put that speak to being impeccable with your word, that speak to think about what you're saying because the power of the word is extraordinary. There's things that people can say to you that can sit with you for a lifetime. I'm going to close with one of those that was said to me more than 50 years ago by my daughter. I know doesn't listen to this podcast, and I don't know that I've ever even said this to her. I've said this to plenty of other people about her, about this conversation, but I'm going to go on record with it right now. I don't know how old she was. I can tell you that she was in a car seat behind me as I was driving down the street. So what is that? Somewhere between 4 and 7? I don't know. She probably wasn't 4, maybe 6 or 7. Car seat, car booster seat. And anyway, I'm driving down the street and I'm having a conversation with somebody. She can only hear my side of it. She can't hear the other person. And it was a work conversation. And I wouldn't call it heated, but I would definitely say that whatever I was saying, I was passionate about. I was very serious about whatever I was saying. Anyway, the call's over. It was a couple minutes maybe. And she says, as we're just driving down the street, in that voice behind me, do you think that you could have found a better way to say that? Now, I'm not getting the exact words right. Imagine a 7-year-old. But that's the point of it. So I tilt down the rearview mirror and I looked at her and I said, it's Madison who I'm referring to. I said, what did you say? And she said, I was just wondering if there was another way you could have said that. Now, my first thought was certainly, I didn't say anything out of line, that it was confusing. And I said, oh, do you think that they didn't understand me? Is that what you're meaning? Like that was difficult to understand? And she said, oh, no, I absolutely think they understood you. What I'm asking is, was there another way you could have said that without it being hurtful? Yeah. And I wanted to defend that. I'm sure I tried. Well, I wasn't hurtful. That wasn't. And yet the question remained 50 plus years later. Is there a way to communicate what we feel needs to be communicated in a manner that is not hurtful, that is not mean, that is not unkind, that is not degrading or insulting in any way? And if we can't come up with that in the moment, what is the line in kindergarten? If you don't have something nice to say, then don't say anything at all. And wait until you can find a way. The odds are, if you can find a way to communicate what needs to be said or what you would like to be said in a kinder, more meaningful, more intentional way, there's a lot more likeliness that that's going to be received in the right way and be a really good, healthy, meaningful conversation. Say it the way you want, just reacting, and then they react back, and now, you know what? You're blocked on Facebook, you're not on my Christmas card list, you're done. What was the point of that? Really? especially if, like I said, you find out on down the road, whatever it is you are so vehemently against or opposed to or defending or whatever is wrong, inaccurate, is only a half-truth. I don't know. But at some point, we have to check in with our values and say, if anywhere in the top 3 is love, connection, friends, family, if any of that is up there, have you placed above that the need to be right? Because it sure seems like the world we're living in, we have a need to be right more than we have a need to love, honor, and respect the people around us who mean something. So, I'm going to close this solo podcast today from those wise words of my 7-ish-year-old daughter, Madison. Can you find a better way to say what you want to say without being hurtful? I think we all can. I think we all should, and I think we all need to. I appreciate you tuning in. If you do feel that this would be helpful, please share it. I think it would be good to not share it in blame or saying you need to be doing this, but maybe more in the spirit of, I think maybe we need to get back to this a little bit more because you matter to me and our relationship matters. And maybe there's a way that we can uplift humanity as we work through the turmoil that we're currently in. On that note, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Game Changer podcast. Please subscribe. I have some amazing and incredible interviews coming up that I am really excited about that I don't want you to miss. And I truly wish you from the bottom of my heart the most peaceful, calm, kind, and loving day that you can have with intention. Thanks again for tuning into the Game Changer podcast.